It all started with a crisp, white envelope shoved into our mailbox, bearing the stern emblem of the Homeowners Association. Violation notice. Unkempt lawn, immediate action required. It read, followed by a hefty $500 fine and a chilling warning that non-compliance could lead to police involvement. My name's Alex, and at that moment, I felt like we'd been slapped with a petty neighborhood grudge. But my wife, Sophia, a sharp-eyed special agent with Homeland Security specializing in urban planning and environmental regs, saw red flags waving from the get-go. "This isn't just about grass, Alex," she muttered, her fingers tracing the letter's edges. "Something smells off." Our nemesis was Margaret, the iron-fisted HOA president who'd ruled our suburban enclave for 15 years like a queen on a crumbling throne. She was the type who smiled sweetly while twisting knives, manipulative, power-drunk, and harboring a dirty secret. She wanted to rezone the lush ecological buffer zone bordering our properties for her own gain, turning it into parking lots or cheap housing to inflate her real estate empire. We'd barely settled into our home when that first fine hit, and Sophia's instincts kicked in. "Why us? Our lawn's no worse than half the blocks," she said, eyeing the adjacent green strip that separated our cul-de-sac from the wild wetlands beyond. Things escalated fast, like a storm brewing over calm waters. More letters flooded in $1,000, then $2,500 each, laced with veiled threats about community standards and cryptic nods to future developments. Margaret started patrolling our street in her gleaming SUV, snapping photos of our yard with her phone, her gaze lingering hungrily on that buffer zone. Whispers from the neighbors hinted at her agenda. She'd pull strings to rezone it, pocketing profits while the rest of us dealt with traffic and pollution. Sophia dove headfirst into detective mode, poring over HOA bylaws, zoning maps, and environmental reports late into the night. One evening, she chatted with our elderly neighbor, Mrs. Thompson, over the fence. Margaret tried this stunt in her old neighborhood, Mrs. Thompson confided, her voice low. Pushed through rezoning, made a fortune, left folks with flooded basements and worthless views. The whole community simmered under Margaret's thumb. Draconian rules on everything from paint colors to holiday lights had folks biting their tongues, but resentment bubbled up in hushed backyard barbecues. Then came the ultimatum, a final letter demanding we attend a mandatory HOA hearing, where Margaret would unveil her optimization plan for the green spaces. Sophia's eyes narrowed. This is it, her endgame. The hearing unfolded in the stuffy community center like a rigged courtroom drama. Margaret strutted in with slick slides, a hired architect in tow, spinning her vision of optimized green spaces code for bulldozing the buffer zone into profitable plots. "Think of the property values soaring," she crowed, her voice dripping honeyed persuasion. The board and a crowd of swayed residents nodded along, approving the plan in principle amid applause. Sophia sat silent, her tablet glowing as she cross-referenced public records, confirming the zone's protected status under federal environmental laws. But Margaret wasn't done. Furious at our no-show compliance, she dialed the cops right there, exaggerating wildly. Trespassing threats. Potential vandalism. 2 officers rolled up to our door that night, badges flashing under the porch light. I froze, but Sophia stepped forward coolly. "Gentlemen, before you proceed," she said, flashing her DHS special agent ID. The air shifted like a flipped switch. The cops straightened, respect replacing suspicion. Sophia laid it out. Margaret's plan violated zoning and eco-regs, potentially a federal offense tied to her personal greed. Margaret, who'd tagged along to gloat, went pale as a ghost, her mouth agape. The officers documented everything, their scrutiny now laser-focused on her. "Ma'am, we'll need to ask you some questions," one said, and just like that, the tables turned. In the chaotic aftermath, Margaret fought dirty, spreading vicious rumors about us being troublemakers and lawyering up with some sleazy firm. But her house of cards crumbled fast. Sophia bypassed the HOA entirely, firing off dossiers to the EPA, urban planning offices, and conservation watchdogs. Agencies swooped in, launching probes that unearthed a trail of violations, illegal rezoning attempts, forged docs, and blatant disregard for protected habitats. The community erupted. Neighbors who'd suffered her tyranny for years condemned her publicly. The board distanced itself like rats fleeing a sinking ship, and Mr. Patel, a longtime resident, testified about her past manipulations, exposing how she'd bullied folks into silence. Legal hammers fell hard. Margaret was ousted from the HOA presidency amid scandals, slapped with massive fines, restoration mandates, and a media frenzy that painted her as the greedy villain destroying nature for profit. Controversial headlines screamed about HOA corruption and environmental sabotage, sparking debates online about power abuse in suburbia. Was she a monster, or just a symptom of a broken system? Folks argued fiercely, but the facts were damning. In the end, Margaret's defeat was total. Forced to sell her McMansion at a steep loss to cover the penalties, she slunk away one foggy morning, a pariah shunned by the very community she'd lorded over. The buffer zone bloomed anew, transformed into a thriving park with walking trails and bird sanctuaries. A reformed HOA board issued apologies, even inviting Sophia to join. They backed off when she declined with a polite smile. Our neighborhood flourished under transparent rules, and Sophia and I basked in quiet peace, hailed as unlikely heroes who'd exposed the rot. Looking back, it was a raw lesson in justice and karma. Greed's a poison that devours from within, and sometimes the little guy fighting back ignites a firestorm. But in a world where power corrupts so easily, who's really safe from the next Margaret?